The world of real estate is even changing. If you don't know, I happen to be a real estate instructor. And as a real estate instructor, I happen to get really, really good stories. And I was having a conversation with one of my students who said, Carrie, I just wrote an offer on a property. And when I wrote the offer, the buyer said, we went and did our own comparables using ChatGPT, and we think your offer is too high.
I think we talked about this story, but I just heard it a lot differently, meaning I was thinking something else. Like the seller was saying that they listed it too high, but you're saying that somebody who wanted to buy the house said the offer was too high. They wanted to lowball it. But okay, wait, hold. Okay, that changes the game because now you're going to have people telling you how to do your job.
So when as a real estate agent, when an agent lists a property, we list a property based on current market value. So we look at comparables based on the recent sold properties. Now, we could try to predict the future, and you can figure out the ups and downs, but when an agent writes an offer, they're writing an offer based on the same comparables. Now, we don't know what the listing agent used. What we try to do a really good job to figure that out because we go and create a market analysis. So when this agent wrote the offer, the buyers went to ChatGPT and put in the address and some basic information, and ChatGPT spit out what ChatGPT thought the comparables should be. What people don't know is now, as of today, AI does not have access to real-time data when it comes to our multiple listing services. Now we'll come back and keep talking about that. But what AI doesn't know and what AI can't do is walk into the property. AI can't see the property, at least not yet. So until it can, what a real estate agent does very well is not just look at the comparables, but looks at what else is happening in the market. And because the real estate agent could see what closed yesterday and 30 days ago, the agent was able to go back to the buyer and say, I can write the offer you want. But here's what you didn't know, because we have access to how many people potentially saw the property, how many days the property takes to go under contract, if we're in a buyer's market, a stable market, or a seller's market, and market time. And so if I can say to the buyer, listen, you can write this offer, but you told me you love the house. So if you're willing to lose it, let's write whatever you want. But if you want the property, this is what my data says. And what you don't know is the comps you pulled are not the comps I pulled. And if we go back and look, the agent was able to prove that the data that that buyer had was wrong and outdated.
Okay, so well, typically people use generative AI and they're going to just get their answers and it's going to tell them what they want. But you just said something that is key about any type of artificial intelligence. It needs a human factor. And if we get tripped up with clients, and for me, I'm in education, and we have teachers that just completely say, oh my gosh, I don't even know how to use, say, ChatGPT, and it'll make this lesson plan. My neighboring teacher is so much faster, created a lesson plan for me, and I don't know how to use it. The difference is that AI isn't teaching the lesson. The person that wanted to buy the house is not seeing the human factor in all the other variables. Now, I'm not saying AI isn't, or generative AI isn't fast enough to do something for you and give you all this information, but it doesn't know the area that you're buying in. It doesn't know the state you're buying in. It doesn't know the market analysis based on the human emotional feeling. And you know that because ChatGPT will say, I'm sorry, but it has no emotion behind it, or it feels like you're literally talking to a robot. And that person that did that can be a little bit, okay, let me pause for a second. Generative AI is creating its own culture. Social media is its own culture. And we are forgetting that if we jump into this culture in a way and create the culture negatively, it'll be just that. We have to remember that the culture that we live in, the human walking around, is more important than creating a culture that could hinder your ability to move forward. But AI is a culture because the people, the babies born today will not know a world without it. And they are not digital natives. They are generative AI natives. That is a big difference.
So here's what I got out of the consumer doing this. What I got out of it was that It doesn't mean that the public can't use AI to try to do some
Right.
research, because you can have a live conversation to find out what's happening in the market, go do your own research, throw it into AI to get some output. What I got out of it was is every real estate agent, every brokerage, every team leader, every instructor at a brokerage, and every real estate agent really needs to start learning how to use AI, any of the models, because if they don't, that is where they won't know how to have a conversation with their client. So because when the agent came to me and said, Carrie, this is why I come to class and this is why they're using AI, is because now she was able to say to this buyer, let me tell you why it's not correct. And then you can tell me what you want to do moving forward. So the key
That
is, go ahead.
no, I was going to say that's the key. Literally, I was going to say the same thing.
So here's another takeaway. I like to learn like everyone else. So I'm subscribed to a learning channel, and I recently was listening to a story about how to, writing and the power of writing every single day. I'm trying. It's not easy, but there was a gentleman who's a writer, a famous author. I can't think of his name, but I was listening to his class. And listening to the class, it made me realize why we need to, as humans, be able to learn and understand our own information and write, and then use AI. Because what you said earlier is talking to teachers and putting together lesson plans, AI can help you. But if they give you a lesson plan and you don't know the context or the subject, you won't be able to teach it.
Not at all. Or you try to follow a lesson plan that's like, well, that doesn't work. These are 10-year-olds. They made that lesson plan for middle school kids. Like that, it doesn't work. And it doesn't know how enthusiastic you are or if you're fun. But that's the same in any company or organization. And considering that we need to learn how to learn, even one baby step at a time, we can get the word or the phrase being left behind, this like no kidding. Because in 2022, in November, when generative AI or ChatGPT hit the ground running, we're not just 2 years behind. Time is moving differently, faster. I'll give you an example on YouTube. You can put a video out and it's 10 minutes long, but if 10 people watch that 10 minutes, you just made time move faster because it's 10 times 10. You've just reached more people all at once. Like if I go into a room and I'm teaching 30 kids, 30 students, it's different than if I take that same lesson and I put it on YouTube. Well, generative AI, because then I can get 30 times 30 or how many more, which is probably another video in itself. But generative AI does the same thing because what it is doing for me is those tasks that I don't really need to make perfect. Like if I write a statement in an email, it's just something simple, and I think, gosh, this doesn't feel right. It doesn't flow. I think somebody's going to read this and feel some type of way about it. Put it into ChatGPT and just ask it, make this more friendly so that it's not read in a negative way, and edit it and make sure it flows and check grammar. It does that and the grammar is going to be right. It might not be the way you necessarily write, but it's an email and it's going out because you probably shouldn't just send emails without checking errors and punctuations and depending on where it's going, I guess. But that's something simple that it can do. It can get rid of those mundane, repetitious tasks that you just don't need. And even if, let's say, you're writing a paper, yes, you should write if it's schoolwork, homework, you should do everything. But there's no reason why you can't put it into ChatGPT and say, does this flow? Does this make sense? Tell me where my gaps are. Things like that, instead of it doing it for you. Because if we get left behind, you're going to children, adults, people at companies are going to ask ChatGPT to do it for them and then spit something out and then have this trust factor and think that it's right. And I'll give you a real good example. When ChatGPT first came out, a lawyer decided to argue a case, and it asked for cases to, because usually they will say, well, judge, based on this case, like a reference, this is already a set of precedence, like it's already there, so you have to side with us. And the judge went online and looked it up and said there's no such case. It made up stuff. So that's why we the human need to be able to check like, trust but verify, and read it and have the human perspective and not just assume that it's right. Email, one thing, it's already what you wrote, it's just fixing it. But if you're asking it to find you research and it gives you a link, you better click on that link and see if it actually is right. And that's that. Are we going too fast or are we going too slow? Going too slow, I'm not I don't care about generative AI, ChatGPT or Gemini. Or am I going too fast and just letting it do all the work for me? And now I look foolish because it hallucinated, it made stuff up.
And what's important is going back to learning how to keep learning how to learn, but leverage ChatGPT or AI or Google Gemini to help you with your daily business. Now, I'm not
Right.
saying that you can't use it to work faster or smarter, but I am saying that everybody really needs to understand how to leverage it and use it. And again, I want to come back and talk more about how to prompt better, but
Yeah.
well, that'll be another episode. So, Mina, what are your takeaways about job loss, and um, will there be a realization of organizations taking their businesses to the next level, or are they going to get stuck and get left behind?
Don't get to the point where you don't want to use it because you think it's going to go away, because it's not going away, and college students are already learning it, and even some elementary and middle schools. So that means your job, as if you're an entrepreneur, you're in big business or a real estate agent, if you could get left behind and you apply for a job and your job is now obsolete, because even Salesforce, a huge company worldwide, already laid off like 4,000 people because they have their own AI when they use their online platform, and those entry level positions are going away. You are skipping those, so you need to be well versed. And secondly is, you don't go too slow, that's one, and don't go too fast. Be very aware that you are the human that is doing this, and if someone comes to you and says, hey, AI did this, like, you're not the doctor, so you telling the doctor that you have this illness, because it'll do that for you too. Be very aware of what comes out of your mouth, because generative AI may not be quite telling you the truth. So trust and verify.
Yeah, and I just verified that 5 days ago, NBC wrote Salesforce confirms 4,000 job cuts. So my takeaways are keep coming to learn from us, log into whatever model you want to test and try, and make sure that you go to the link down below and subscribe to get our e-newsletter on Twinfluence. Take a second and follow us on social media and subscribe to our podcast, Twinfluence.